And let me first invite Mr. Rajat Sood to give his presentation and tell us what EESL plans to do in the area of hydrogen generally and in Ladakh region. Mr. Sood, over to you.
Thanks a lot. It's a privilege and my pleasure to be part of the International Climate Summit 2021. And thank you to Terry, to the PhD CCI who are organizing this summit. It's truly momentous for us to be talking of something which today cannot be imagined. I would say that this is surely the right time for something new to be talked about. And Ladakh, if anywhere in India, is truly the place where we should be dreaming about something which is going to change, revolutionize our way of looking at energy. So, with your permission, I would like to share a few slides around what I see as, I would say, questions on how Ladakh could be made carbon neutral. And I would then leave you with questions around what role could hydrogen be playing in this. Obviously, there are some very easy answers around that. But let's first explore the route to carbon neutrality. And I'm sure that after me, Shobik will come in and do a much more detailed presentation. So not stealing his thunder, but let's look at the current energy mix of Ladakh. This is how the fossil consumption happens in Ladakh. And yeah, so what we see here is that HSD and kerosene, these are the big contributors of consumption today. And we know that these go into automotive use, mobility, as well as in heating, lighting, and cooking. And that's what the majority of consumption is. And this is our endeavor to remove from the Ladakh system and replace it with something. When we look at the electricity side, there's a very healthy mix of generation. 72% comes from hydro, which is renewable today, but a good 19% of the capacity comes from diesel. And there are days in winter. Yeah, just bear with me. Yeah, so what you can see here is that kerosene and HSD are the predominant fuels, and LPG is also a little contributor. The very small gray line that you see is all gasoline or motor spirit or petrol as we know it. So these are the fuels that have to go out, and diesel from the red portion here from the electricity generation mix. Yeah, so if you look at the current greenhouse inventory, 68% is due to energy, and energy from diesel is a good 12%. Transportation is 28%, manufacturing, and you have other sectors that are consuming. So if we are able to address energy and transportation, then we could have addressed quite a large portion of the greenhouse gases. Net, we need to remove 1.83 million tons of carbon, but in all reality, I think we should target to remove 2.57. So what could be the strategies? And I could spend a lot in explaining some of these to you, but I think if you could move our supply side and remove diesel and any other coal power generation that comes from across the border, and have a system which is based on wind and solar, and during the times that the water doesn't freeze, if you can do hydro, plus traded renewables which could come from outside, that could be our supply side. If you could focus on that, on the end-use demand side, we know heating, which is currently on, a lot of heating is on kerosene or firewood. Firewood is not per se carbon emitting because it is coming from green sources, but it is very polluting when it is used inside the homes. So both biomass used in cooking as well as in heating is something which has a virtue of replacement. And if you could find a solution for that, that would be very critical for our energy transition in Ladakh. And if you could do this energy transition in Ladakh to move all of our heating, lighting, cooking needs to another format of fuel, a renewable format of fuel, we could make that example easily replicable all over the country. And ESL has thought long and hard about it and has come up with a very innovative scheme of using induction cook stoves. Just to give you an example of what is the possibility of induction cook stoves, they save close to 2,000 rupees today for somebody who's using LPG as the cooking medium. And that's quite significant when you are a BPL consumer. You spend 7 cylinders. With the subsidy, you get these cylinders at roughly 4,200 rupees for your entire year. Whereas if you move to electric induction cooking, you could not only cook faster each time that you cook, you could also save half of that money and reduce your bill, energy bill. And that's the advantage of bringing electricity there. The second big I would say saving comes from the subsidy saving that one achieves over a 5-year lifetime can easily pay for an induction cook stove. Also, if we were to think that this is induction cook stove, how do we ensure that it doesn't consume other formats of electricity and consume solar? We've designed now a system where we could put a battery, do our cooking battery to it, and feed this power, synchronize the storage of the energy into the cook stove with solar power generation. Solar power generation, by and large, predictable, happens around noon, 3 or 4 hours plus minus noon. And if you could program the cook stove to do this power absorption during this time into the batteries and release this power in the night time, one can transition this to solar cooking without adding any solar panels to the system. And all of this can be done with existing technologies and with rates that are very viable. So when I was talking about the subsidy trade-off, 5 years of subsidy trade-off could give you the investment cost needed in a battery-based cook stove. And it's revenue neutral, therefore, if the government decides to give it to families. And this is something that we are proposing and should enable, if the proposal goes through, all the households in Ladakh. Other formats that are helpful to transition on the demand side are lighting, move it from kerosene to LED lighting. And even if it is incandescent, it helps to move it to LED lighting because a 100 watt gets replaced with a 10 watt bulb. On the space heating side, we are missing Mr. Wangchuk, but he's done exemplary work on passive cooling, passive heating, and mix that with the electric blankets and the format that could achieve the degree of comfort that is needed. We could even remove kerosene from heating in the homes. So we've dealt with lighting, we've dealt with heating, we've dealt with cooking. Coming to commercial, we are evaluating the use of heat pumps. They're much more efficient than fire stoves, or currently even diesel is used in heating in public buildings or in commercial buildings. And we would launch very soon a pilot around moving all of that heating to a more efficient based heat pump based heating solution. Similarly, in agriculture, pumps and motors, we could easily phase that out. On the transport side is the biggest possibility. And directly, hydrogen can, with your fuel cells, could give you a lasting solution to long-range transport. And electric vehicles, we are now piloting with a few electric vehicles. Ladakh is a port place. We are confident of putting in vehicles which will give good performance even in the cold in Ladakh. So those are demand-side initiatives. And what those demand side initiatives will do is move a lot of the demand onto the electricity grid. And on the supply side, we've seen we could get a mix of wind and solar. So how would it look like? We asked this question. How would it look like if all of this was to come true? And our estimates is that our demand would move up to 80 megawatts. And if we added the induction cook stove, the ones that we intend to revolutionize cooking with, the yellow portion would actually become the peak on top. And if you see, it adds a little more peak to what the usual peak, it aggravates that peak. But this is where the beauty of battery and storage comes in. So if we were to just design a system which produces 185 megawatt wind and 185 megawatt solar, and we've been simplistic not to take all the irregularities of wind and solar, but they are very complementary. And this is a scenario where, let's say, the waters are all frozen and you're not getting any hydro. So if one looks at the aggravated demand curve that I spoke about, that is covered now by the portion that you see in yellow, in light blue, and you could meet all your deficit by taking the deficit is the pink portion, but if you could shave off the light green area, which is the excess that you have, and put it in batteries, you would, or put it in another form of storage through hydrogen, you can actually not only meet the demand, but also have an ecosystem around storage. And that storage could either be in batteries or could be in hydrogen. And that is the question I would leave this audience behind, because we see very significant scope of improving the power reliability by putting batteries behind the meter. Hydrogen fuel cells behind the meter is something that would be a dream, but till that dream comes true, and to make the system in the dark reliable, our solution today is that we put batteries behind the meter, make sure that even if there is weather outages, or there are grid outages, or there are last mile power line outages, they do not reduce the confidence that the consumer will place on some of these appliances. And therefore, we're proposing to put in the solution of batteries distributed on a very large scale, and ensure that all of this surplus generation that could happen in solar and wind is moved into these systems and stored for the next day. And even on the worst day, we believe the system will be sufficient to meet the worst power generation scenario and still meet the entire demand of Ladakh. And all that is needed today is a 185 megawatt system. The potential that Ladakh has is 160 gigawatts. So I think we have a huge potential, and wind and solar could also be very, very cheap in Ladakh, because sun availability in terms of number of days is the highest in India, and also the intensity of the sun is much, much higher than what we see in the rest of the country. So I think if there's any place to start, and let me open this debate to the rest of my panelists as to how we see this could all pan out. So that's all from my side. Many thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sood. That was an interesting outline of the future that you envision for Ladakh, and you have made some very good specific suggestions. One question which I had in mind, because I have been looking at the several path-breaking initiatives which EESL has taken in the field of LED bulbs. It has also started a similar initiative in the transport sector, in the air conditioning sector, and also in the vehicles now. So do you see some kind of an initiative like that, either on the drawing board of EESL or something which you anticipate? You talked about induction solar cookers. I mean, this is one good example of where large procurement models, sustainable procurement models, can bring bring wonders. And then they can make a very large scale transformation within the reach of the people. So, do you foresee something like that happening from the side of ESL?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we would use our strength in demand aggregation and bulk procurement around a range of initiatives. So we are applying the bulbs and the streetlights in Ladakh. That's a learning from other places, but we are actually incubating the induction cook stove in Ladakh. I mean, that would be perhaps the first place where we're proposing to roll out the system. We are also proposing what we call to make the electricity system reliable, storage battery for the lighting and space heating needs for almost 12 hours of the night. So if there was a complete outage, there will be no fear in the mind of the consumer that he will be left in the lurch with no solution of lighting and heating in the night, and will have to therefore go back to his fire stove or some other format. And what we are doing is we are proposing that this system be dispatchable with solar. And if you look at the future, as we increase our penetration of solar in the country, we will have to either increase storage or we will have to bring a lot of appliances which can work on demand response. And by that, if let's say you have a solar cloud on a solar farm, and you lose 30% of your aggregate capacity, you will have to switch off 30% of your demand at that moment, or bring in 30% of the supply from storage. And our model of distributed storage works cheaper, gives the dispatcher free of cost this demand on a variable tariff, and is also much more sustainable in terms of loss reduction, deferral of grid investments, and some of those other things that come with behind the meter storage. So we are a strong votary of behind the meter storage as ESL. We led with appliances, and behind appliances, we are also saying let's make these appliances smart. And Ladakh is actually the place where we propose to launch this in a big way.
Thank you so much.